gals and guys, this is Cathy, and I have a tutorial today on making these cute little journal charms. They're easy to make. Should take about 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes. Let's get started. First, I'll go over the materials that you'll need. Let's start with some craft board. I have craft board here. It's pretty thick. You'll need a piece of that. You'll need some glue. You'll need scissors. You'll need a cutter if you'd like. Although you can use scissors, I use the cutter to cut the craft board into the size that I need. You need a few stamps that will fit inside a 1.5 by 1.5 inch template. You need some rhinestones stick-on if you'd like. They're optional. You need some Mod Podge and something to put it on with. And you need some ink to darken the edges, and you can also color the edges in a colored ink if you'd like. Okay, I think I remembered everything. Oh, well, you need some paper that you're going to choose to go underneath the stamped picture. So any kind of paper. Today I'm going to use a colored piece of paper, and I'm going to use some scraps that I have of some text paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my craft board, and I'm cutting the craft board into 1.5 by 1.5. So I'm going to do this. Hopefully we'll stay in the frame. Let me make sure. Yes. First I'm just going to cut a strip. And what I do to cut craft board on my cutter is first I cut one side, and you'll see it doesn't go all the way through. Then I turn it over and I cut the other side. And that will typically go right through. Then what I do is cut off 1.5 inch squares. For this project, I want you to cut 2 squares because we are going to make 2 different charms. But if you only want to do one, that's okay too. So I have one. Remember, they're 1.5 inch by 1.5 inches. First, we're cutting the craft board. And I turn it over and do the other side, and I go back and forth in case it's tough. So now I have my 2 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares. Next, I'm going to cut my paper. I have some leftover cardstock. It's best to use cardstock, although you could use regular paper, but it doesn't stand up as well under the Mod Podge. Again, I'm cutting it at 1.5 inch. And for each square that you cut, you need 2 pieces of paper, one for the front and one for the back. So in this floral pattern, I'm cutting 2 1.5 inch squares. Oops. Try again. Okay, those are my floral squares, and now I'm going to cut the text. Text always looks kind of neat on this project. I'm going to cut it so I can have the smaller text. I don't want this big text. So I'm cutting off, again, 1.5 inch squares, and I need 2 for each side. 1 for each side. Okay, you will not need your cutter anymore, so you can put that away. I have this Teflon mat down. I use it when I'm gluing or stamping. It helps. There's my 2 squares, my paper. So the next thing we're going to do is glue them on the square. And you just simply, I just do it all over. I try to make sure I get the edges. And turn it over on the other side. And the same thing. And you can always have, if you'd like, a different pattern on each side. But these are going to be the same paper on either side. Now for the text one. You'll see how easy these are. You can actually do a bunch. You can do about, in a sitting, you can do an assembly line type method and crank these out so you always have little charms to add to your journals or to give away. Put them on, I put them on journals, I put them on purses, all sorts of things. Okay, so now I've glued each of the squares. Next thing I want to do is I want to ink around the edges. I've decided on the printed one, I'm going to ink around the edges in blue, and it's going to turn out similarly to the way I did it here. And I don't have an extra, what do you call it? The wooden holder for this particular stamp or this particular sponge. So I'm just going to put it by hand. And you want to make sure you get the edges well. What you might want to do, and what I think I'm going to do on the blue one, I'm also going to go around the edges in black. And without using the sponge, I'm going to simply rub the edges because I want it to look like it's wood. It feels hard like wood, so when people get these, you kind of wonder, is that wood? What's it made out of? So I think it's kind of cool to cover the edges in black, which I did. And now on the floral one, I'm going to do the same, but in black. And I love the way the inks give definition. They cover up the flaws if you didn't cut right. And again, you want to make sure that the edges are not a color other than black. Okay? Perfect. Now it's time to stamp. So I'm going to use black stamps for these. And if I can find my little plastic little thing that holds my stamp, that would be great. There it is. I'm going to use a bird cage. I'm going to put the bird cage on the floral. Help if I turn it upside down. Duh. Okay. And I always like to do it a diagonal. I think when you're charm, you can put the hole in the center. I always put the hole in the corner. So I like this to be upright when it's falling from the book, from the journal, or from wherever it's hanging. Voila, one side. And usually don't have to wait too long for it to dry. I'm going to do the same stamp on both sides, but you don't have to. You could pick out another stamp. And there we go, bird cage. I think it looks kind of neat with the floral. What I didn't tell you should have on hand are wet wipes. They're my friend. Not that it helps you get the ink off of your hands, but it helps you to clean your stamps. And this. Always like to clean as I go. And here we have the Eiffel Tower. I got to see the Eiffel Tower once. That was very fun. Although it was in November and it was pouring rain, but it was still magnificent. let's see. I don't know if this is all going to fit, but I'm going to try. I'm going to do as much as I can. I actually have a smaller one that I obviously didn't take out, but it works. And I'll also do the back. And I can come down a little more. And I overran it a little, but that's okay. I'm going to put a rhinestone up there anyway. Okay, that you're done with the ink. What you also want to do before you start to put the Mod Podge on is you want to make sure that it's kind of even all the way around. I noticed here that the paper is a little off, so I like to take the scissors, and wherever the paper doesn't go to the edge, I kind of just clip it off. That also means I'm going to have to ink it again, but that's okay. I just like to check. Excuse the barking of my dog. I forgot to tell you, you need a hole punch. I knew I would forget something. But the next thing we do is we punch a hole. I use the smallest setting for the hole punch, the little punch rather than the big fat one. I think it's 3/8 or something. And I'm going to put it right in the corner, right at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Right there. And here, I always want to make sure that I'm putting it at the top in the direction that the stamp is going in. And there we go. So now I have 2 of those ready to be Mod Podged. So I'm going to take my Mod Podge. This is quick and easy because Mod Podge dries very quickly. So I'm going to hold it by the corners, and I'm going to do one side at a time. And you know what? I forgot to add the little rhinestone. I'll add it on the other side because I usually only add it on one side. You want to make sure that you get the edges as well. We're going to set that aside and let it dry. And I am going to put the rhinestone on here before. And let's see, maybe I should clean my hands. I think maybe on the bird cage we can do a green one. So I'm going to take a green rhinestone. I always like to reinforce it with a little glue, even though it's adhesive, and I'm going to stick it on the top. You can stick it wherever you think it works, but I stuck it on the top. I'm going to go back to Paris, and I'm going to stick one there as well, because you should coat your rhinestone. I'm going to put it on the side with Mod Podge just to reinforce it as well. So I'm going to do that again. And you don't have to worry about messy. It dries clear. You do want to make sure your brush marks are going in one direction, because sometimes your brush marks will show. And let's go over this one. Make sure we get the edges. Whoops. And let that dry. If you have a blower, you can, put the blower on there. And when it dries, we will do the other side. And then you're ready to go. In the meantime, I'm going to keep going because I made one earlier up to this point. This is after the Mod Podge dried. And the next thing we want to do is make a little charm to go in the hole. So what you're going to need is you're going to need an eye pin. I always like to get not the longest size, but the next longest size. They have small, medium, and large. This would be considered the medium size. You want to make sure that you have the little hole at the end, because that serves to go onto the charm, onto the wood charm that you're making, that you've made. You need a jump ring as well. And then you need some random beads, just like that. And trust me, I'm not a jewelry maker, so I had to just practice, and it was easy to learn how to do. There's lots of videos on YouTube to help you. And if you don't feel you can manage the jump ring and such, you can do it with string and put it through with a nice little string. But I'm going to show you how to do this one. I'm going to leave this down because I think it's a little easier to view on the white. So the first thing I want to do is my jump ring. I have to open it up. Now these particular ones that I purchased are stainless, so they're harder to open. If you get the silver ones, they're easier to open because they're softer. But I'm going to hold it with one side, and I'm just going to bend it till it looks like that. I hope you can see it. And I'm going to have that ready in a moment. Next, I'm going to take my eye pin, and I'm going to simply thread the beads, put the beads on the eye pin. I'm going to go green. I'll put a clear one in the middle. Excuse my dirty inked up fingers. Don't we all get like that? And then the last is kind of a bluish green. I thought it would go well. The next thing I want to do is I need to make a loop at the end of this stick pin, or this eye pin they're called. So I hold it like this, and I simply wrap it around. If you don't have one of these rounded pliers, you can do it over, if you have a thin piece of, what could you use? A skewer, like a bamboo skewer you use for your food. You wrap it, and then we're just going to make it go around the charm. And we're going to keep turning it until we're almost done. Then what we're going to do, I'm going to straighten out the loop. It has a little end here. I need to cut that off. If you don't have these pliers, you can mash it down with regular pliers. What you're doing is making sure that this doesn't stick out and hurt somebody. I'm going to cut it off, but I just as easily could have pressed it down. I'm going to try to cut it off, right? And I want to get as close to the edge as possible. And now I have my charm. So I have to put the charm on the jump ring that I opened, and I put it on the side that I didn't make. And I'm going to put the charm through here so that it looks like that. And then I'm going to take the jump ring, and I'm going to attach it through our hole in the charm. And then I'm going to bend the holes back together. What you don't want to do when you're opening and closing a jump ring, you don't want to pull it apart. You want to twist it open. And that's our charm. And what you can do, you can hook this to a safety pin. You can hook it to a, what do you call those, jump rings? And that's it. So, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new today. And as always, have a great day. I always learn things from you, and I hope you were inspired by something that I did. Have a good day. Bye.